Hi, Nabil. So we've got your last set of essays. Wonderful. Let's take a look and see what you did with this set. So the first one is the task 2 about moving companies to regional locations. Here's what you wrote. Local authorities are requesting business owners to move their headquarters and production departments from metropolises, or from the metropolis, you could have said, to regional areas. Were this measure to, now here you need passive voice, were this measure to be implemented, okay? It could bring both some positive outcomes for the company and negative repercussions for the staff. Okay, fine. I like that you tried to do this very advanced structure, but as you can see, it had some grammatical errors in it, and so that reduces the effect of it. So yes, try to do this kind of structure, but make sure you have it grammatically correct. Let's move on. It has often been asserted that property's costs, well, you know what? Property can't take a possessive really because it's an inanimate object. So what you do in this case is you keep it as the noun form, property, okay? And you just, essentially it becomes an adjective. You don't put any S's on it, you don't do anything. So it's a noun that acts like an adjective. So it really should have just been property costs, okay? So it has often been asserted that property costs are considerably lower in regional cities than large urban areas. Hence, from a business point of view, moving to more remote places could enhance a firm's financial health. To illustrate this claim, a highly cited article released by The Economist, where a group of researchers analyzed the property expenses of the American commercial enterprises, discovered that in remote areas, rental expenditures are 40% lower compared to large cities. It is evident how beneficial moving to regional towns could be in terms of savings for a particular company that has initially set up their business in a metropolis. Okay. I like that. I have one concern, and it's this. It's that it asks for benefits, and you essentially just really talked about this one benefit a lot. Did you expand upon it? Yeah, you did. But I'm concerned that you didn't actually give us more than one. So let's see what you could have done here. To maybe saved some words, maybe at least had some more time to write a second advantage. Now, okay, here's what you could have done. You could have started by saying a more general topic sentence, just like something like moving to regional locations has numerous benefits. One of them is that rent or property costs are lower. Hence, from a business point of view, etc., etc., enhance the firm's financial health. Okay, and then you had a lot of language in this one sentence. Look at this. Let me show you. So I would have really shrunk this. Take a look. This was one sentence. So you could have said, in fact, a recent article claimed that American companies that followed such measures spent 40% lower or 40% less but after moving to regional locations. Short, okay? So this to me was a little wordy. And then this again could have been a little more general. Therefore, it is clear that there are financial rewards to moving to regional locations. Done. So if you had done this, if you had shrunk down these ideas a little bit, I think you would have had more time to have another advantage here. And like I said, I am concerned because they did ask for more than one advantage. They said benefits, plural. And that's something you really need to pay mind to. Okay? All right, let's look at the next paragraph. However, one school of thought deems that transportation infrastructure in industrialized cities is far better than those in small cities. Far better than that in small cities, because infrastructure is one thing, allowing for the personnel to commute to work just relying on public transport. According to a scientific poll conducted by the Employment Standards of Administration, in which they were asked, what are you saying here? In which they asked in which they asked 2,000 of hired hands working in a company based in a regional area which are the advantages? Look at how long the sentence is, okay? It's difficult to read. Take a look at it. Look. It starts here and it ends all the way here. Now, these are the kinds of sentences I know I have advised not to write. They're really far too long, okay? And it's really quite a bit for an example, okay? So, I mean, we'll try to read it one more time. According to a scientific poll conducted by the Employment Standards of Administration, in which they asked 2,000 of hired hands working in a company based in a regional area, which are the disadvantages of living away from large urban areas, over 80% of the respondents said that they find painful the lack of trains, buses, and undergrounds. All right, it's just too long, okay? And this lengthiness is keeping you from developing the paragraph more fully, okay? So this again needed to be cut down a little bit. And there were lots of ways you could have written it. You could have said, according to a recent scientific poll, thousands of workers based in regional locations claimed that in a survey of thousands of workers in a regional location, over 80% said that the lack of trains, buses, and underground were made working in the region difficult. Done. Okay, it's shorter, it's cleaner, and then, like I said, you'd have more time to develop another disadvantage. So this shows how detrimental. Careful with your word order here. You shouldn't. Hang on. This shows how detrimental it would be for the workers of a specific company if their organization would move from enormous cities to regional areas. Okay. In conclusion, where to locate companies' workplace has become a hot button issue for many governments. While affluent cities could provide optimal services to their inhabitants, such as great public transportation, moving to regional areas could allow a marked plumb of the firm's property expenditures. Okay. So it's nice, but like I said, I'm really concerned about the fact that you didn't give more than one advantage, didn't give more than one disadvantage. It's the kind of thing examiners are looking for. And so you really need to be careful with this, okay? So I think you said something in your email about, word length, and you were worried about going over. Well, as I said, it's partially your sentences. They're really very long, especially those examples you used. They were just very long, and you needed to economize with your words a little bit, okay? I mean, yeah, sure, some of them were lovely in terms of the sentences and so forth, but I think that it's more effective to say less about some of this, but to, develop a little more the topic, advantages, plural, okay? Disadvantages, plural. All right, let's take a look now at your task 1, mobile operating system usage. Okay, let's take a look at this. So let's take a look at what you wrote. The pie chart depicts which were the proportion of mobile operating system usage. All right, careful with this type of phrasing here. Let's fix it, okay? So the pie chart depicts the proportions of mobile operating system usage in September 2015. So you didn't need this which were, okay? Overall, Android and iOS were the most popular smartphone operating systems, while BlackBerry OS and others were you mean here, less common ones. Okay, you're missing a word here. And that's important because you wrote most popular and then you wrote common. So that didn't really quite make sense. Okay, let's move on. As it can be seen, Android and iOS accounted for the biggest proportion in terms of mobile operating usage. In fact, a combined percentage usage was just below 95% of the mobile systems. Again, mobile can be a noun here, it can be an adjective here. Just take away the S, take away the apostrophe, leave it in its pure form, and it's your adjective, okay? Where Android usage was more than half of the total market share, 53.37. What? Let's try that again. In fact, their combined percentage usage was just below 95% of the mobile systems, where an Android usage was more than half the total market share, 53.37%, while I'm so confused by this sentence. Here, you needed to split it into two because you've got so much information here. it didn't need to be one sentence, okay? And it just became rather difficult to read. So let's try to split it into two sentences, all right? So, in fact, their combined percentage usage was just below 95% of the mobile systems, full stop. Android usage was more than half of the total market share. Yes, okay. While, okay, at 53 point, say at here, at 53.37, while iOS was, no, it's not true, markedly below. At, you can't say that. Was somewhat lower at 39.4. So this is markedly lower, right? This is just somewhat lower. Was somewhat lower at 39.3 or 39.43. This shows how Android and iOS dominated the smartphone, again, no apostrophe S here, systems market. In sharp contrast, BlackBerry operating system and other systems represented just a small fraction of the total mobile operating software. As it can be seen from the graph, their usage was roughly half, what does that say here? As half as the usage of Windows Phone and Symbian system. I don't understand that. So, okay, let me see if I understand this. Windows is 2.4. And BlackBerry and Symbian are 1 something. Okay, so the grammar here is problematic. Let's fix it. As can be seen from the graph, their usage was roughly half that of Windows and Symbian systems, comma, accounting for just over 1% each, full stop. Okay? From this data, it can be asserted not how far, it can be asserted that I would have just said something simpler. iOS and Android dominated the mobile phone market. Okay, or had the lion's share of the mobile phone market, something like that. So I liked a lot of this. I liked the way you divided it. I liked the way you focused on the 2 highest ones in one paragraph, and then you focused on all those little ones in the other paragraph. But some of the language was a little awkward, and so that's the kind of thing that's going to keep you from, scoring higher, because I think this could have scored really well. You did pick out some nice pieces of information here. You did focus on them. You did emphasize them appropriately. So just be careful with some of this language here, which was rather awkward. All right, let's take a look at the tea leaves. Let's see what you said here. The flowchart illustrates how 5 different kinds of tea are made. Overall, the production of tea involves from 3 to 6 stages. Homemade linear processes. Well, we don't know that they're homemade, do we? It doesn't say that. So you could have just said linear processes that begin with fresh tea leaves and culminate with cooling or drying. Okay, good. To begin with, fresh tea leaves undergo sorting and cleaning. After that, while for the production of white tea is just required to be steamed and dried, for black oolong and green tea varieties, again, no apostrophe S here, there are different processes. Okay, that started out well, but I want to fix some grammar again here when you talk about is just required. So, while for the production of white tea, only steaming and drying is required. Okay? You have to change the grammar here. For black oolong and green tea varieties, there are different processes. In fact, for green tea production, first the tea is withered, careful, and consequently is either pan-fried, steamed, or fired. From this, before making the final product, the leaves are either rolled and shaped or dried, while some jasmine is added. For oolong tea, first it undergoes shaking or rolling inside a basket in order to proof leaf edges. After that, the tea is fermented for a short period of time and consequently is pan-fried and finally is dried. Similarly, black tea is rolled into strips for gung fu, black, or cut, careful with your grammar here, for broken, not one, then it undergoes full fermentation, and lastly is fired or dried. In sharp contrast, scented tea production starts with either green, black, or oolong tea, which are then dried so that it undergoes scenting, in addition with flowers, and then dried. How about this? After which it undergoes scenting with flowers and fruits. So you don't need some of these words like in addition, so that. You don't need any of this language. The final product is then made after it is cooled. So, okay. The good news about this is that you've included all the main features, all right? I didn't have to look at it. I knew that you did. It was clear to me by the way you organized it, and so that's good. But there is one problem here. There's nothing really in terms of comparison, in terms of linking, and there was a lot of commonality here that you could have linked. Okay? So, for example, you could have said that they're all sorted and cleaved. You could have said that after you talked about white tea, you could have said that the next step is the same for all of them, which is withering. You could have also mentioned that the last stage, well, actually you did in your overview, but you should have mentioned here that both black and oolong are fermented. You could have mentioned that green and black need to be rolled. Okay, so there was a lot of commonality here that you could have and you should have linked together. Okay, and so that was really missing for me. Plus, there were some of those awkward pieces of grammar. Okay, so I like what you're doing in terms of organization, in terms of coherence and cohesion, and in your flow chart. I thought, like I said, you included all the important information, so all that's good. But we need to do a little more work in terms of the grammar, first of all, because there was a considerable amount of awkwardness in grammar in all three tasks that you sent, and then a little work in terms of task achievement for all of them as well. Okay, so this was your last set with us, Nabil. I don't know, do you have more time to write more essays? There will be a link in this email for more essay corrections if that's something you would like to sign up for. I'd love to continue working with you and helping you. So hopefully we'll get to see more of your essays. Let us know either way what you decide to do, and I want to wish you tons of luck.